First of all, thanks, Keith, for joining me today. For anyone that doesn't know Keith, I've known Keith for a number of years now. He's an ILM legend. He's been training people in the industry for at least the last 15, 20 years. Keith, could you give a bit of a snapshot into your background? And
my background is, I actually trained as a lawyer, never qualified, was a building society branch manager, lent money, sold mortgages, life insurance, then became a trainer with Nationwide Building Society, a very reputable organisation, still going really well. Became the training manager for Allianz in the UK and Ireland. Was responsible for the re-engineering of the business in the early 90s. And then in about the year 2000, we started Positive Perspective in 1995. Oh, wow. Just over 25 years old now. And no clients, no money, nothing. And we started running ILM programs, the Institute of Leadership and Management programs.
Yes.
And subsequently, we've probably have 300 or 400 candidates that we put through, both in the UK, Ireland, and Benelux as well, over that period of time. Okay. And we also provide, and I also help companies with senior management coaching and directors of businesses, but primarily by accident, but over 20 years ago, started working for Interserve FM. Okay. That was called Building and Property, and provided a long-term management program for them, and subsequently got into working for CBRE, Mighty, and various others, including names that are still around or have morphed into other organisations, but within hard services, particularly FM.
I think everyone that I've really ever known, especially at ILM 5 level, I imagine, especially at CBRE, have definitely worked with you, Keith, and I think they're all testimony to you to say that you are a great trainer. And I think that's why I wanted to reach out today and obviously talk about this subject, which is a subject that I think over my entire time of recruiting in hard services has come around quite often, which is that how do I step up to become a contracts manager? This conversation normally happens with people who are either at engineering level or contract supervisor level. It's normally followed by the comment of, my company doesn't provide me with any training, or, I want to do ILM, I want to become a manager, but I'm not quite sure how to, or I'm waiting for my manager to sign off a course. I mean, from my perspective, I can completely sympathise with that. And I think the ILM training scheme is fantastic. And if employers want to engage their staff into doing it, then that's brilliant. But also as well, I do believe sometimes in life that there is obviously the opportunities that you create for yourself. And there are, I think, some areas, especially if you want to prove that you are ready for management, that you could undertake bit of sort of self-guidance, self-help, self-training. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's areas in there that maybe someone who's working as a supervisor could look at to hopefully grow?
Certainly as a supervisor, it seems to me that what you're aiming to do is you've got a group of people that are working to you and with you, who maybe you were one of.
Of course. Yes.
And therefore the relationship changes, and suddenly you realise that, frankly, naked, because you don't have the skills that you were comfortable with, which were technical skills, and now you've got to learn a load of new skills. Often you learn by watching other people do it badly or well, and depending on how well they did it for you, depends on how well you do it to others. And with training, you can cut out a lot of the mistakes that you don't need to make.
Of course.
So that's one of the things. I think the other thing that anybody aspiring to this needs to think about are what I call the 3 Ps. Right. And the 3 Ps are people, processes, and profits.
Right.
And you've got to be good at all three of those and develop skills in all three of those areas.
Mainly geared towards being a contracts manager, isn't it? Of course.
Yeah, and a good contracts manager to me is someone who has entrepreneurial drive. Excuse me. That is to say, they're someone who actually can manage a profit and loss account, can actually see the account that they're looking after as their own, and their team as if you like, part of their family. And then once they start to engage in that way, they start to behave differently. Basically, everyone a marketeer, everyone a finance person, and everybody should be trying to deliver the very best service for that client, and then the rest is easy.
Would you say that, in your opinion, then, that say you're in your mid-20s and you're as contract supervisor at the moment and you want to step up to become a CM, if you hit that and you're under 30 years old, but you've still got big aspirations to maybe become an account manager or director one day, would you say it would be a bit naive for them to be so not sort of focused in the next job title, but to maybe spend another year or two at contract management level and gain those extra skills you're talking about, because you're almost setting yourself up to fail, I guess, if you go any further?
Yes, you need to be comfortable with what you're going to do, and also have been developed as the great Ian Entwistle, who runs CBRE GWS, always talks about, which is a number two. That is to say, the person, the safe pair of hands, who you've brought up to then take on your role, so that you can then take the next step yourself. And effectively, it's like a sausage machine. You bring in apprentices at the bottom, or people come in and they learn a trade, and they gradually progress the organisation in different ways. It could be a very short period of time, depending on their capability, and their emotional intelligence is an important thing. Some people of whatever age have got fantastic emotional intelligence and understand people and what motivates them. So motivation, delegation, leadership, being organised, all of these things are things which really help become a contract manager. So
if I was working as a supervisor or an engineer at the moment, and that is my goal, I want to become a CM or contracts manager, and there wasn't the opportunity to go on any ILM training courses or to undertake training to cut out some of those errors. Obviously, I could look to my line manager for some sort of mentoring. I'd imagine there's people within the business that I'm sure if you reached out to, they would definitely be happy to do that. A lot of people in my time as well, in my career, have certainly helped me along with a lot of knowledge that they've picked up in their experiences. I mean, is there any other angles that someone could look at if they couldn't do the ILM that might be able to benefit them?
I mean, first of all, in post-COVID, there's a lot of material, for instance, on LinkedIn that's available free. There's a lot of very good YouTube clips that are available free. Certainly in terms of presentation skills, you can improve your presentation skills, both in terms of just coming across or actually delivering a message. A lot of that can be self-taught. The thing, what you're really looking for is you want a box in which the basic things that you need to be good at are in there. And those things happen because, if you like, you've been directed correctly to pick up perhaps 7 or 8 different things. Those things are organizational skills, so time management, leadership, actually understanding what the difference between a leader and a manager is. Basically, a leader is someone who has a vision and brings people along with it. A manager is someone who manages the delivery of that vision. They're 2 different things, but 2 sides of the same coin. Both are important. In more recently, leadership's become this big thing. Management's been sort of subjugated and told it's not very important anymore. Of course it is. It's very important, because you need people who can deliver what it is that the great idea or the great leader is actually putting together. You need both. And I talked about motivation. You have to be self-motivated. You have to believe that actually you have the drive and the interest to learn. Reading, Audible, any method of learning stuff, all of this is perfectly possible without doing very much at all from your own home. However, you've got to want to learn. If you think it's going to be given to you, it ain't. And one of the things that we encourage is that self-development.
I think you're right, and nothing happens overnight either. No. I think that's one big point that I think I've even been a victim of myself, is trying to push things that I wasn't ready for when I was younger, and not really understanding what I needed to do, essentially, to get myself ready for it. Because you do learn from your mistakes, but in the same breath, I guess if you're employed at a bigger company and you have got scope to go up, you don't want to take that opportunity and fail. So I guess bit of, how can I put it, like what you just touched on is basically self-education, isn't it?
Yeah, and self-development, self-education. Also be honest about what you can and can't do.
Yeah, that's an interesting
something. If you want to get better at it, then put the effort in. The analogy from football, rugby, cricket, any sport, anything you ever do in any field of life, to be good at anything, you have to keep practicing it. It's as simple as that.
Well,
and if you aren't prepared to put the hard yards in to do that, you won't. But if you do, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. And I mean, in my business with one of our trainee consultants at the moment, we've been using a similar analogy of lifting weights. Essentially lifting off with a very light weight, but the more you lift it, the stronger you'll get. And then before you know it, 6 months in, 12 months in, you're going to be absolutely flying, like you say, and the sky is the limit. But you're right, and I think it really does just come down to self-motivation, doesn't it? Self-education, and maybe looking out for those opportunities to speak to a mentor or somebody more experienced to help you. I mean, is there anything else that you could think?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things you just talked about with the weights is that you develop effectively muscle memory.
Of course.
And one of the great things that we can all do is, once we know how to, it takes about 10 times of doing something to create a correct habit, if you like. And once you've cracked it, it's effectively unconscious skilled capability. And that then gives you confidence to be able to then take on whatever is coming next.
Right.
And that's because practice, muscle memory, effort, all of those things. You know, you can't duck it. However, if you want to be a technically capable person, you can very much say, well, actually, I don't want to manage people. I want to be a technical expert. And both of these are very important in hard services, for instance. One of the great conversations that we have with people is to say, well, you're at a crossroads. Which way do you want to go? The problem in the modern age, different from the generation that I come from, we never had a choice. We just had whatever there was. There was it or nothing. Now, there's so much more choice. You know, coffee shop choice is what I'm talking about. So your options are so much broader. Therefore, you have to almost limit yourself. Well, what do you want to do? Be clear about what you want to do, and then go for it.
I'm thinking back to that in terms of sort of innovations. I mean, if you're on a site, you're a site supervisor, what sort of innovations have you sort of heard in your sort of training that people come up with as part of their SLAs and things? I mean, is there any little, golden nuggets in there?
Golden nuggets. I mean, one of the things that we as an organisation do is we do negotiation skills training. Right. And one of the key things you need to be looking at is your supply chain and how your supply chain's operating. And where there are opportunities for savings and where there are opportunities for new projects. And if you're clever and you think about both of those, if you like, both sides of the game, then there is lots of innovation. I mean, clearly in the last 6 months, companies, in order to get some people back to work, have spent a lot of time and effort doing things. Other organizations, big public organizations, have taken the opportunity to fix things in a museum, in a public gallery, or so innovations around the supply chain. And can you look at how the suppliers are operating? For instance, can you pay them quicker so they deliver a better service for you? Deliver things that no one else is being able to do.
I guess as well with some of the tenants and the demises, whereas they rejig their workspaces, for example, there's going to be areas there for projects, especially in fit out, sort of fabric based work, which is, as a supervisor, if you're an engineer, even if you have a good relationship with the client in these demise or tenant contracts, and you can bring that to the table, then hopefully if your management gave you the opportunity to run with that project, that is only again going to lead into you upskilling, isn't it? Especially with your commercials and your P&L, and I guess like you just touched on, their managing suppliers as well.
And the great thing then is if you're working for a multi-services type of FM, such as JLL, CBRE, etc., you're going to be able, or even some of the smaller ones, British Lands or whatever, you're going to be able to bring in other services from other sectors within your organisation, which will also help. And it's not just about the selling; it's about thinking about the customer. Thinking
outside of that job description that you get given as an engineer or as a supervisor, isn't it? I guess, and thinking what else you could bring to the table. Yeah.
I talked about the box earlier, and when you think about innovation, it's what box?
Right. What box? No, I completely agree. I mean, I think from my own experience, when you start a business as well, you have to really think outside the box. I mean, there's no choice. You have to come up with your own innovations and your own ideas and things like that. And I guess that's why maybe I hate the word entrepreneur, but I think when you were talking about it a moment ago as a contracts manager, I guess if you're showing those signs as a supervisor in the sense of spotting, opportunities and ideas, and the word innovation, I guess, is only going to bring you along, isn't it? And upskill yourself.
We've spent the last 25 years training people who probably, most of whom didn't have any qualifications.
Of course.
Now they do. And so nowadays, when you go to any, you know this from the interview, whatever, excuse me, everybody's looking for, well, what have you got? What have you done? And if you've got something behind you that says, I've done this, and this, they're learning a great deal about you, because what they're saying is this most important question Tom Peters always talked about was, what do people do when they're not working for you? And the interesting thing always is the question I always ask anyone, if I'm ever interviewing anyone, what do you do outside work? Because that will tell you as much about that person as any technical question ever will. Because as soon as you find out, for instance, that they, this is the Tom Peters question.
Yeah.
One is a deacon in their church, another one runs a Girl Scout troop, Boy Scout troop, one repairs computers on the side, another one, and all these different things that we're talking about. Suddenly you think, crikey, this person's really capable. And as Tom Peters says, except for the 8 hours they work for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that does, yeah, I guess if you are spending those hours outside of work, self-educating and looking at books, audio, speaking to a mentor, spotting innovations, going that extra mile for your contract, I guess that, well, it's obvious, isn't it? And I know this for a fact, if you go into an interview and you speak about those extra bits, like you say, they're probably going to get you that job. They're going to land you that contract manager's job.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they just say, well, this person, they coach a football team. this one does this one does that, you know, and you just think, whoa.
Of course, no, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
So when you're thinking, whoever you are, when you're thinking about any of these things, if any what I'm saying makes any sense, think about everything that you are, the whole person. What have you done? What could you do? And what are you going to do about it? Because, yeah, I'm fifth generation entrepreneur. My great grandparents came to this country from Poland with nothing back 150 years ago. You make your own luck, you develop your own thing, you know, talking to another entrepreneur here. It's not been easy, it's tough, but actually, whether you want to run your own business or be part of someone else's business, the entrepreneurial bit is very important. And as Napoleon said, we are a nation of shopkeepers. So we have the capability to do all these things. It's ingrained in us.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's you know, celebrate whatever it is you are. Did you sell sweets in the playground? Did you, you know, to your mates? Did you sell?
That's the
lemonade stall, whatever it is. You know, did you fix a bike, other people's bikes? What are the sort of things you've done? You know, all these things will all add to who you are.
Yeah, and that creates the image or the skill set, sorry, is probably the correct word, that you're going to need to draw from, life experiences for when you step up, potentially, or when you take that next step in your career. Right, great. Well, I think we've touched on quite a few points there, and hopefully there's a lot of takeaways there for whoever's watching this video. And maybe in the future we can catch up again and touch on another subject, Keith.
You're very welcome. You know, and just say this to anybody who needs any help, regardless for whatever reason, they're always welcome to ring, call, email. You know.
And if they did want to contact you, what is your email, Keith?
So my email is keith@positiveperspective.co.uk. And that's probably the best way to
they can add you on LinkedIn as well. And
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on, you know, do various different things. Actually,